Hello everyone, Jason from Truth Behind the Magic here, back with another video. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. It was kind of just something I randomly thought of the other day. I thought would make a fairly interesting video. And some of this I've briefly mentioned in previous videos, but not really gone into that much detail and had like an entire discussion about. But the focus of this video is who shouldn't do the Disney College program. And I just want to immediately preface by saying there are far more scenarios where people should do the program than when they shouldn't. However, I felt it was worth mentioning some of these scenarios, because even though some of them some of the suggestions I have here will almost certainly fall on deaf ears, just because the people who fall into those categories will probably do it no matter what. But I think a few of them actually have the chance of helping some people out there who are thinking about whether to do this or not, really debating whether it would be worth it to them to do it. So that's mainly why I did this, because I'm sure a few people will see this that fall into some of these categories that are actually gonna listen to the suggestions. But the first one, and this may sound ridiculous and like the most completely obvious thing of all time, but you would be surprised. I have seen this in the company firsthand. But number one are people who absolutely despise the Walt Disney Company. Now, I'm not talking about people who are simply critical of the company and the decisions that are made there. Take me as example number one for that. If you've seen this channel, you know I'm very critical of Disney at times. Probably the majority of the time. But I also give them credit where credit is due, where it is deserved. And I feel like as of late, at least in terms of the parks, they've been getting a lot more credit than criticism. Mainly after that big announcement they had last year with all the stuff coming to the parks. But I've worked with plenty of people who are really indifferent and just don't really care about Disney one way or another, but just wanted to do the program to get good work experience and visit the theme parks and experience Orlando, and that's totally fine. You don't have to love Disney to do the program. You certainly do not. You don't have to be a Disney vlogger to do the program. But I am talking about people who are 100% believe that Disney is just 100% evil, greed-fueled, and is incapable of making a positive decision, and they believe they've really just always historically been an awful, terrible, evil company, and they just can't stand them at all. Like, believe it or not, I have seen quite a few people in the program like that, like a staggering amount. And that kind of segues into number two, because some of the people that would fall into the first category almost certainly fit into the second category. But the second category, I've mentioned them time and again on this channel, are the people who are only there to party, sleep around, and do other college activity, as I would call it. And like I said, I've discussed this plenty of times on the channel, and I'm certainly not saying that you shouldn't have a good time and have some fun on the program. But when people are doing the program simply because they've heard it's a great place to party and find women, and I know it's not just finding women, it's the other way around too, but just in general, if that's what you're going down there for, it's a problem. And I know, like I've said before, there are going to be the people out there that see this and be like, oh, he's just an old bigot of some kind. He doesn't like the young children. But it is simply not that. It's because if that is your mindset going down there, you are destined for failure. Like, you are straight up setting yourself up to have a non-enjoyable program for the most part. And that's for a few big reasons. Number one, people like that are in for a massive shock when they get down there and learn that it's not all going to the parks and partying and whatever else, they're going to learn that they have to work 5+ days a week, potentially more than 5, with a 90% chance, I would say, of working evenings, where you're not going to get off until 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, or even later. In some cases, I've been there before in the later column. And 2, they are in for a big shock when they learn that Disney tends to not tolerate inappropriate workplace behavior. And, like, not to say people like that are going to be, like, necessarily harassing people in the workplace or anything. I'm sure some of them have, but, even just, like, it's not as much of a factor nowadays, but, I mean, they used to say that what happens at housing can get to your workplace. Like, the leaders can hear about it, especially social media. Social media is just a landmine. It's a minefield. Disney will find stuff out if you're posting it publicly. But back in the day, things that happened at housing, Disney really did have the capability to somehow find out about it. Like, if you were involved with a late night party that got out of hand and the police were called, they would find out about it somehow. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm sure they still have that ability to an extent, but not as much as they used to. I think it's just because that the people who run the housing don't do as good of a job anymore. But the third thing they're going to find out is, or not the third thing they're going to find out, but the third reason they really just shouldn't do the program is because they are taking a place in the program away from someone who genuinely wants to perform well and work for the company and get that internship experience, but maybe just slipped up somewhere in the application process or didn't perform all that well during the interview. So this other person's going to get in instead and then probably end up getting termed or self-terming from the program when they realize they actually have to work full-time. And number 3 here, maybe obvious as well, but some people don't consider it potentially. But people who are not comfortable living with roommates, especially if it's actually sharing a room with a roommate, but I know some people don't want to live with them at all, like even share a common area. And there is a very high chance you will end up sharing a room with someone during the program. It happened to me 2 out of 3 programs. I'd say it's probably an 80% chance. I don't know what the official number of rooms is there and how many of them are the shared rooms, but it's a very high chance that's what you'll have. And for me, I had very few issues with it, and overall had a great experience with my roommates. Especially my first and third program, really great time. I mean, if you've seen the older videos on the channel, you know Blaze. He was my immediate roommate for the majority of my time down there overall, probably like 5 months, at least when I had a roommate. And then my third program, I had some roommates who I didn't actually share a room with, but they were incredible people. I still talk to them all the time. But if you are someone who 100% requires total privacy and doesn't like roommates, you will either have to take the gamble of finding enough people to get a non-Disney apartment with so you can have your own room, which can be difficult, assuming they'll even, like, let you sign a lease. Some places might not, depending on your situation. But either that or you're going to have to consider not participating in the program at all. And I don't want to, like, sit here and say that I am encouraging you to not participate in the program if that is you. But I just think if you're not comfortable living with roommates at all, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. If you don't end up self-terming from the program, you'll probably end up looking back on it with not very fond memories. But moving on to number 4, and this is another thing that people might not immediately consider, but I'm sure some people are thinking about it. but it's that people with certain degree fields slash career aspirations should probably reconsider thinking about the program. Now, I certainly don't want to say that you would have zero value from the college program if you fall into the scenario that I'm going to describe here. Because really, regardless of your field of study, the program is a great way to gain experience dealing with the public, especially if you're more introverted like I was when I did my first program. It can really help you become more comfortable around people, and it can help you just overall grow professionally and as a person. However, if you are in a degree field that is just wildly different from hospitality slash management slash business, you may want to consider other options. Something like, computer engineering, a scientific degree, or something that's just very specialized. You may, frankly, be better off finding something that is more in line with your career plan than doing the program. And just to reiterate, if you're pursuing one of those degrees or something similar, like a very specialized, like high-level degree, you certainly may still find value in the college program. It just might be of a much higher value for you to pursue something like a summer internship in a specific field rather than, working at a quick service restaurant for a semester. Not to like talk down on any quick service or anything, because that's what I did for 7 months on the program, but I just think if you're like a nuclear physicist or something and you go work custodial for 4 months, I'm just not sure that's going to help you in your career plan. Just to be frank about it. And number 5, the last one I have on here, which has been a big thing that I've talked about pretty much ever since this channel came out, but that is people who are dead set on permanently, I use permanently lightly, but people who are set on permanently moving to Orlando after their college program, with the caveat of whether they have graduated or not being a factor, should very much consider not doing the program. Now, like at the beginning, I said some of these will fall on deaf ears. Like, the people who are going down there to party and everything won't care if they hear someone say they shouldn't do the program. And people who are 100% committed to doing 1 semester of college and then moving to Orlando and permanently dropping out of college and permanently moving there probably won't take this advice to heart. But I mean, even if I can touch one person out there and improve their life, then I've succeeded. But like I said, it's something I've talked about many times on the channel. And even on the first video or the second video, where me and Blaze did our biggest tips for the program, my number 1 tip for anyone doing the program was this factor that you should not move to Orlando after your program unless you have already graduated and are fully prepared for a major move. You have a plan in place. I have personally seen people's lives get completely upended for years. They essentially, I don't want to use the word waste, but they throw away years of their lives because when the luster of living the cast member life wears off, they are stuck in Orlando with no degree because they dropped out to go make burgers or whatever. Once again, not to talk down on the cast members, but I'm just saying, literally, I've seen people drop out of their bachelor's program to go work quick service. They're down there with no degree, no family around, and are essentially stuck in a workplace position where you can't move up. You have to have a degree at Disney to even have a chance of moving up. At least if you want to do it within a decade. Or 2 decades, even. Probably not that far, but you have to have something that puts you above most of the other people working there. And the only real caveat to this number 5 on the list is that there are people out there who went to college with the express intention of getting into the program and then staying in Orlando after the program and utilizing the Disney Aspire program to pay for tuition while they're continuing college and working for Disney after they move. But for one, they really gutted that Aspire program about a year ago, so keep that in mind. You might not get as much as you used to, and I still do not recommend doing this, moving down there without your degree, even if you are planning to just get in the program and then do the Aspire program afterwards. Because if you are working full-time, you will be able to take at most 2 classes a semester. Like, I'll practically guarantee that, unless you just want to run yourself ragged. And even with 2 classes, your time will be completely consumed. You will either be at work or doing schoolwork. You won't really get to go to the parks or do much with friends or anything like that. So really just the major lesson there, and like I always say, probably my biggest lesson from this channel, is please finish your degree and have a plan before you go to be a full-time cast member. Don't ruin the next decade of your life or whatever by dropping out of school when you had the chance to complete it all within 3 or 4 years, to just go down there and then potentially never even finish the degree. And I'm not saying that everyone has to have a degree. I'm just saying that if your plan is to make a career at Disney, you're going to have it. Like, pretty much just simple as that. But really, that's all I have for this video. I hope that was at least fun to watch in some way and maybe informative for some people. But I will see you next time.